The nights in Emberfall had grown quieter with the passing years. The air carried a sense of calm, of renewal. Wind passed gently through the marble corridors of the restored palace, brushing against banners embroidered with the sigil of the phoenix. The once scarred land healed slowly beneath Kael's rule. Villages once crushed by war thrived again. Trade flowed freely. Magic once feared now stood as a guiding light, no longer a weapon. Yet Kael could not sleep. For weeks now the dreams returned, deeper than memory, darker than prophecy. In the flickering firelight behind his closed eyes he heard it. A voice like molten gold and silk calling his name. Not pleading, not demanding, but waiting. Kael. And always that same image. A throne of ash, a crown of flame with no end, and a woman cloaked in burning shadow standing beside it. He would wake soaked in sweat, the flame heart crystal glowing faintly where it hung from his neck. Once a source of power, now a reminder of something older stirring beneath. He did not speak of these dreams to Cerys, not yet. Instead, he rose each morning before the sun, sparred with his guards, and toured his rebuilt kingdom like a man trying to convince himself the worst had passed. But it hadn't. Not truly. That morning, Cerys found him in the royal garden, standing beneath the weeping birches that bloomed in white flames, a rare gift from the Magelands. "You didn't sleep again," she said softly. Kael didn't turn. "Dreams don't let me." She stepped closer, brushing her fingers against his. "Is it the flame again?" He nodded once, silent. Cerys's eyes darkened. "I've seen it too, in glimpses. A name rising through the embers. Velmyra. Does it mean anything to you?" Kael stiffened. The name. The same one he'd been hearing in his sleep. "It's old," he whispered. "Older than the Flameheart. Older than us." Before she could speak again, a horn sounded in the distance, urgent, sharp. Moments later, a guard approached with wide eyes. "Your Majesty, we've received a messenger from Ashmere. There's been an event." "Event?" Kael asked. "An eruption, not volcanic. A vault beneath the earth, magic tore it open. Several towns near the rift have vanished. Survivors say they saw shapes in the fire, and a mark burned into the stone." The soldier handed him a folded cloth, still hot to the touch. Branded into it was a sigil neither Kael nor Cerys had seen in years. A twisted phoenix, wings bound by chains. Kael inhaled sharply, the hollow flame. He hadn't spoken that name in over a decade. Cerys stepped forward. "We need to gather the council." "No," Kael said quietly. "We ride for Ashmere now." She met his eyes and saw it there, the fire again. Not the wild flame of youth, but the controlled, dangerous blaze of a man who knew just how fragile peace truly was. "Then I ride with you," she said. He didn't argue, he never could. Kael, Cerys, and their hand-picked escort rode through the jagged hills of Ashmere 3 days later. The skies darkened unnaturally as they approached the rift. Birds avoided the region. The ground hummed faintly with magical residue. What had once been a thriving valley of trade caravans and stonecutters was now a blasted basin. Ash drifted like snow across ruined timber and broken statues. Fire still clung to distant treetops despite the lack of fuel. They dismounted at the crater's edge. A massive gash had torn open the land, 20 meters wide and seemingly bottomless. Runes shimmered along the rock, glowing with slow, pulsing light. At the center of the crater was a carved obsidian pillar. Chained around it was the symbol of the hollow flame, now active, now awake. Kael stared down. "That shouldn't exist," Cerys said, her voice barely above a whisper. Kael crouched at the rim, placing a hand to the scorched earth. "I can feel it. It's not just magic, it's memory. Something's been unsealed." "Who could have done this?" He stood slowly, grim. "Only one kind of force would dare, believers." "The hollow flame isn't dead, Cerys. It's been waiting." She glanced around at the shattered rocks and symbols. "And now they've called her name again." Kael felt something shift beneath the rift, faint but unmistakable. A heartbeat, something alive was down there. He turned to his captain. "Send for Rowan. He may still have ties to the rogue scholars in Calthrin. We'll need forbidden knowledge to understand this." The captain bowed and left at once. Kael's gaze remained fixed on the black pit. Back at the palace, the archives groaned with age. Rowan arrived 2 weeks later, taller and sharper than before. His red hair streaked with silver, his cloak stitched with strange glyphs. "Still a king, I see." Rowan smirked, entering Kael's study. "And still a troublemaker, I assume?" Kael replied, though his tone was warm. Rowan's smile faded quickly. "I've seen the sigil. The Hollow Flame cult didn't die in the old wars. It hid, and while you built kingdoms, they built scripture. Saris leaned forward. Who is Velmyra truly? Rowan frowned. A forgotten empress, banished before the age of crowns. She ruled before the Flameheart existed, before magic took form. But the records disagree. Some say she was a goddess, others a mortal who conquered the gods themselves. Kael exhaled. And now someone wants to bring her back. Rowan hesitated. She was never gone, just sealed. Beneath the earth, and now something's unchaining her piece by piece, Saris whispered. What happens if she returns? Rowan's voice was dry. The world burns. 12-year-old Princess Illyra was unlike other children. Where her father's fire was force and justice, hers was curiosity and brilliance. Her tutors often said she could speak with flame, make candles dance in her hand before she learned her letters. And lately she'd been having dreams too, not of war, but of a woman with a face like her mother's, cloaked in fire, whispering forgotten names. One night she woke to find a circle of burnt feathers on her floor, real, smoldering, but cool to touch. The Flameheart glowed from her father's chambers down the hall. Kael didn't speak of it, but he knew. Whatever fate was coming, it wasn't his alone anymore. Illyra was bound to it too. Across the realm, signs of Velmyra's influence grew bolder. In the Frostlands, lakes boiled in the dead of night. In the Skyreach towers, flying citadels once thought lost reappeared, crashing to the ground with ethereal screams. In the Southern Isles, whole towns vanished, leaving behind only scorched stone and a single mark, a woman's crown shattered. Kael called for a new council. This time, not just warriors and nobles, but mystics, wanderers, and even former enemies. Among them were Vera, a blind priestess who could read the truth in fire; Dusk, a thief whose blood sang with shadow magic; Thalor, a beastmaster who could speak to the dead winds; and of course Rowan, keeper of forbidden knowledge. Kael stood at the head of the flame-lit council chamber. The Flameheart hovered before him. It's not about power anymore, he said. It's about ending what should never have begun. Velmyra's flame will consume everything unless we seal it forever. Saris stepped forward. Or, she said softly, we find a way to speak with her. The council stirred. Rowan narrowed his eyes. You're suggesting diplomacy? Saris nodded. If she was sealed, maybe it was unjust. What if her wrath is not without cause? Kael clenched his fists. And if she doesn't listen? Then we remind her, Saris said, that we are not the children of ashes. We are the children of choice. Kael returned to the crater in Ashmere with the council in tow. Runes had spread farther across the rocks, now forming intricate geometric patterns spiraling outward from the black pit. The air shimmered, hot but not burning, like standing in the breath of a waiting beast. Vara knelt beside the edge, whispering to the scorched soil. Her blind eyes glowed faintly. She's listening, Vera said softly. And she's waking. Thalor frowned. What does she want? Vara's voice deepened unnaturally. Not vengeance, memory. She wants the world to remember what was taken. Rowan crouched beside her. The legend said she was betrayed by her own blood, that she was the first wielder of the true flame, not the last. Kael stood at the edge of the abyss. If we go down there, he said, we might not return. Rowan smirked. When has that ever stopped us? Kael's gaze didn't waver. Then we prepare. The descent into the rift took 2 days. They followed the ancient spiral staircase carved into the stone, passing murals half consumed by ash. Scenes of a woman in golden armor, her hands alight with suns, cities rising at her feet. Then another image. Betrayal. 1,000 swords piercing her throne. Her body cast into the earth. At the base, a sealed gate of obsidian pulsed with heat. Rowan approached it, palms glowing. This isn't just a door, it's a judgment. It will read each of us and decide who may pass. Kael stepped forward first. The gate flared with golden fire and opened. Saris followed, then Rowan. Vara. Thalor. But when dusk approached, the fire flared red, and she was flung back. Kael caught her before she hit the ground. She's been touched by shadow, Rowan murmured. Velmyra's flame rejects her. Dusk stood, scowling. Then I'll find another way in. Kael nodded. Do what you must, but don't stray far. If things go wrong, they will, she said flatly. Then she vanished into the tunnels. The rest of the group passed through the gate. Beyond lay a vast cathedral buried in stone. Columns of lava frozen mid-eruption, suspended by forgotten magic, and there at its center a throne of molten crystal. Empty until it wasn't. She stepped from the shadows like a memory given form. Velmira, tall, dressed in burning robes that shifted with every breath. Her face bore no age, only power, sorrow, and fury braided into every line. Her eyes locked onto Kael. "You wear my flame," she said. Kael didn't flinch. "I inherited it." She tilted her head. Stolen light passed from hand to hand like a crown of lies. Rowan stepped forward. "Velmira, you were betrayed, yes. But that was ages ago. This world has changed." Her gaze snapped to him. "Has it? I see ruins above. Fear, weak men hiding behind peace. Is that change?" Saris tried next. "There is more than ruin. We've built again, we remember." Velmira stepped down from the throne, fire coiling at her feet. "Then show me," she said. And the world turned to flame. Each member of the group fell into their own trial. Kael stood before a burning vision of his past. The boy he'd been, broken and bloodied in the alleys of Dareth. The boy accused him. "You traded revenge for a crown. Justice for comfort," Kael answered. "I chose peace for others, so they wouldn't need to become me." The boy vanished. Saris faced a memory of her darkest spell, a life she'd taken to save Kael's. "Was it worth the cost?" the illusion asked. She whispered, "I'd do it again, but I'll carry it forever." Rowan stood before a library of flames, each book a piece of forbidden truth. "Choose," a voice whispered. "Knowledge or loyalty?" Rowan reached for both, and the library burned around him. When the fire cleared, they stood again before Velmira. "You pass," she said, "but that is not a gift. It is a burden. For I will rise and the world will choose." Kael stepped forward. "Then let it choose freely." Velmira's eyes narrowed. "Then the flame must spread." The seal broke. Velmira rose through the rift, not as a conqueror, but as a reckoning. Fire spread through the skies, pillars of ancient power erupting across the world. Forgotten temples lit once more. Old magic returned. Elira, watching from the palace, felt the fire stir inside her. Her hands glowed gold. Saris found her days later floating above the Flameheart chamber. "She's connected to her," Saris whispered. Kael nodded grimly. "Or worse, she's her vessel." They had won Velmira's respect, but they had not stopped her. And now the world stood on the edge of transformation. Not war, not yet, but something older than both.